Right. Okay, so today we talk about something very important in terms of if you want to be successful. There's one key trait that you need, and that's sales, of course. And I'm going to tell you some tips that I've obviously worked on. Sometimes in sales, you can often be born with it. Sometimes that's not the case. You could be an introvert. Communicating with people can be a challenge, but you can't hide from it, right? And if you want to be successful, you need to be able to sell. You know what? I've even got the lights on. I'm gonna take my glasses off because we're getting serious, and we'll break down some top tips. So first things first, then, to be a good salesperson, you got to be able to communicate effectively and well. Think about your niche and think about the space that you're in. Do your research. You should know the types of clientele that you'll be dealing with. Are they professionals? Are they students? Whatever that looks like, identify that and then adapt your approach. Think about it. If students are your target demo, you don't need to be excessively formal. You need to speak to them in their language. Quite self-explanatory, but again, a lot of the time people have one distinct style and it's not a case of one size fits all. Learn to adapt and use a different strategy depending on who you're speaking to. So we're talking about confidence. Confidence comes from knowing your product or your service. So you need to be an expert in that field. So if you're selling financial products, you need to know the features and benefits of that product, how it's going to benefit the user, and you need to convey that in a language that they can understand and get. You need to be relatable, and also you need to understand people's needs. So don't sell on a product because let's say, I don't know, what am I wearing? A jumper, a Tommy Hilfiger jumper. Don't sell on a product, it's a jumper, it's branded, will keep you warm. Think of what's the why and what's going to be the benefit of that person having that product. So a live example, having a designer top will make you look more professional and look more stylish. It'll keep you warm. However you want to spin it, it's up to you. But ultimately, you need to know your products and know your services and obviously convey that in a special way. You also need to have an arrogance and an attitude towards people saying no. You need to build untapped resilience, because ultimately in sales, you may have already heard an objection is usually a request for more information. So if you're trying to sell a product or a service to someone and they're declining or they need to think about it, you really need to get into the meat and bones and figure out what is it that they need to have a think about, why they're not buying today, because it's not going to be a financial reason. Money circulates, and I don't want to hear this nonsense about it's a recession, energy costs and all that sort of stuff. Look, bills, inflation, that's always going to rise. And if you go to bars like myself, I'm in one of the main cities in the UK, second largest. You'll go to bars, you go to restaurants. I'm talking high-end bars and restaurants, and guess what? They're full. Restaurants are full, even fast food chains are full. So people are spending money. You just got to think about what they're choosing to spend it on and why. You need to get your product, your service in front of that other expenditure. Also think about payment gateways as well. So especially with e-com, there's so many different ways to take high ticket payments as well. I'm sure you've heard of services like Klarna, ClearPay, PayPal Credit. You can look to explore different options and you can break down your costs. So for example, if your product is £30 for a monthly subscription, you can break that down to £1 a day. £1 gets you nothing these days. So the justification for someone not being able to afford that, it's either one or two things. It's either a case that you've not qualified that person ahead of the call or the interaction, and it's not suitable for them, or B, you've not been able to convey that offering to them correctly and understanding their needs. So that's really important as well. Of course, practice, practice, practice. Good old school sales and successful people in sales, they work off a script. So effectively they will look at a script that's been put together, especially with like bigger corps, and they'll master it and follow that framework. So again, like I said at the start, some people are, born with, what do they say, the gift of the gab. Other people can learn the skill by just following a skill set, following a script, and also looking at how they can adjust and make it authentic to them. And think about your delivery as well. If you're talking to someone with a very stiff monotone, you're going to lose engagement. If you're high energy, you've got charisma, you can make people laugh, you can make people smile, you can make people feel good about themselves. These are likable traits that people decide to buy with you. And again, it doesn't matter what business you're trying to do. The bottom line is you're selling products and services. Marketing, right, it's not really important. It's not the main thing. A lot of people focus on the marketing aspect, making sure the materials, the assets are shiny, colorful, fast animations, all that sort of crap. Instagram, for example, is a good example of this. You'll sometimes find, some companies, startups, SMEs, they would have invested tens of thousands into their marketing. They'll get the likes, they'll get the comments, they'll get the engagement. But what's the bottom line? The bottom line is the cash money. It's that conversion, isn't it? So if you could look at, especially when you're new in business, starting to get sales and sales directly with your customer, whether it's B2B or B2C, that's how you'll be successful in that regard. And the fundamentals are the same. Once you can master sales and you can really confidently communicate with anyone, irrespective of age, gender, social class, you'll be absolutely fine. And that's really important. So communication's key, knowing your product, knowing your service, being an expert in your industry. But you've got to have an element of arrogance and excessive confidence, which is an absolute positive. These are positive traits in successful people. Some people might put you in a bracket of being a narcissist. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, these are the people that are nowhere in life. They're not making any money. They're not doing anything. They're too busy complaining and calling other people names. So you've really got to build yourself up, and that's how you'll get confidence. And people can see that straight away. If you know what you're talking about and you communicate that effectively and confidently, people will buy into that straight away. Myself, for example, when I started off doing online coaching for training, diet plans and all that sort of stuff, people could see me in terms of my build, my physique. They can also see how I know my niche, my products, know the industry, and how I can convey and understand, right, this will be the best plan for you, this is a nutrition plan you should look at, etc. And then of course you'll start to benefit from that as you'll get reviews, referrals, and that will start to compound. Other things you can do as well is being prepared. So if you've got a sales call booked in at 11 o'clock, you don't want to be hopping on at 10:59 or 11:01. You want to set yourself at least 15 minutes when you've reviewed the client, reviewed their needs, gone through what their requirements are, you've pre-qualified them, you thought about questions that they might ask, think about objections they may have, and allow yourself to prepare and deliver an exceptional delivery in that proposal to your client. And again, it's going to come with practice as well. If you're doing this, if you're a solo entrepreneur, you're doing this by yourself, you're a one-man business, best thing to do is review your conversations, whether that's through call recordings or making notes or getting peer feedback, and look back at how you've pitched the product. If someone's tried to talk and explain something to you and you just cut them up, that's a big red flag. And what you need to do is self-review regularly as well, and make sure you're not making the same mistakes twice. You want to cut out words like long pauses, and you want to be very concise with your delivery. You don't need to choose complex words in the dictionary. Keep things simple. You don't need to try and sound too smart. And with practice and repetition and self-review, that's where you'll get the confidence. You'll start to deliver your elevator pitch for the product you're trying to sell or service. And guess what? You'll start to win. You'll start to make wins. People will start to buy your product. And then when you're then going on to your next calls, that's going to give you even more confidence because people are buying what it is you're selling. And that's going to ooze through. When you're building momentum, right, it's like with anything, isn't it? Even in the world of dating, when you get one girlfriend, it's quite easy to get the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, and it will compound. No different to sales, right? The flip side of that is, if you're in a situation where you're not planning, you're not preparing, you're not confident, you've got a dull pitch, you're very monotone, people are saying no, you're accepting that, that's gonna carry on to your next call or your next meeting, and you're gonna almost go in with a I can't do attitude, and then of course you're doomed, right? So compound your wins, okay? And believe me, once you're on a winning streak, you shouldn't be stopping, you shouldn't be getting complacent. You should keep on working even further. If you're and again, a lot of people talk about the modern Gen Z style of side hustle, work smarter, not harder. Well, why not work hard and work smart as well? Put them together. You know, make sure that if you've got 10 sales calls a day, you're closing 100% of those calls, right? And in a 24-hour day, if you're getting 10 calls and you're winning that business, rather than putting your feet up, why don't you try and get another 10 calls in? So that should be the mindset. And also, once you've sold something, once you've made a sale, you know, put a tick in your commission sheet, tally on your board, you've got to forget about it. That's in the past. A big mistake that people make is they'll make a big ticket sale, 4, 5, 6 grand, 10 grand, and then they'll put their feet up and they'll start to chill and think, right, I've made a few quid, time to spend. And the reality is, you should be looking at it, right, is, look, I just made 10K, just bank that. Let's move on to the next. Let's move on to the next. Let's keep compounding. Momentum is key. And this comes down to the pendulum theory. And you're going to be on either side of the pendulum. We talked about this just, you know, a few moments back, but when you're stuck in that rut, right, let's say this is the rut and this is the money bags, it's going to take a lot of momentum to get this pendulum swinging just to break even, and even more to get you to the winning side. And think of it like a pendulum. It's a heavy-weighted object. It takes a lot of momentum to push something up, up, up. But as you can imagine, once you've shifted into that winner's pocket, of course you can move back down and fall into a bad space, but why not keep pushing that momentum forward so that you can keep compounding these wins and making more money? So this is very, very, very simple, basic, but very essential skills and mindset that you need to have, especially if you start in business. And again, it all comes down to the fundamentals we spoke about in the past. It comes down to mindset. You know, are you mentally prepared? Are you focused? Are you resilient? Do you have your goals lined up on a board? Is everything all planned? Because there's a big difference between, you know, being delusional and being overconfident, prepared, ambitious, and goal-driven, which is obviously realistic and achievable. And think about, are you doing everything you can to prime yourself in that optimum position to make money? Because when you're starting out in business, you've got to sell for yourself. You can't think about, you know, I want to get some employees, get people on payroll, they can make money. No one, and I mean no one's going to care about your business, right, the same way you are. That's just how it is. It doesn't matter. That rule is universal across the globe, across the universe. You'll find people on Mars, they'll have the same mindset as well. If you want something to work for yourself, you've got to go out and get it. So the first skill you need to work on is sales. There's a lot to unpack, and of course this is not something we can do in a quick sort of 10-15 minute video, but these are principles you need to start thinking about. Think about what you can do that you can control. So again, we talk about the mindset, think about the physical aspect as well, build a body, be strong, be resilient, create that, comfortable stress, that healthy stress, and get comfortable with it. That's going to help you as well. That's going to help you with your resilience. And depending on how you do your sales meetings, it could be in person, could be on the phone. If it's in person especially, dress up, look the part, present well, know your product, know your service, firm handshake, maintain eye contact. Very simple things, very basic things, but these again are the fundamentals. And this can be a lot more challenging, especially for the younger generation who don't really know how to act from what I've seen. But it's always, something that we can fix and correct. So put the PlayStation remote down, put down TikTok, stop watching other people be successful on YouTube, Rumble, whatever platforms are, Snapchat, that are live these days. And rather than championing someone else's success, why not look at it and say, why can't that be myself? But more importantly, that should be myself. And especially nowadays with the internet, you can work anywhere. I work worldwide. I take my laptop, got my iPad, got my iPhone, internet connection, bang, done. I'm traveling, I'm flying from A to B. My lifestyle is very good for what I do, and I'm very happy with that. But of course, we want to climb further up the mountain. We don't want to get complacent. But again, as a youngster, think about what is it you're doing with your time. If you're an old boy, then you've got a massive disadvantage because you haven't got time on your side, but you can still turn it around. Okay, KFC didn't pop off till the Colonel was 68, 70. But again, there's no point being rich and being successful and wealthy once you hit retirement age. If you're in your 20s, if you're in your 30s, and you can actually have your health behind you and enjoy the fruits of your labor, that's the time to shine. So this is just a quick rough video, just putting it out there, just to give you some, straight, no BS pointers to think about. And this is what's going to help your business learn how to sell.